Hello and welcome back to a how-to video by Scale Model Scenery. My name's Sam and today I'm going to show you how to paint and weather your tiles on this particular kit, which is KX057. You will also find these tiles on our Alex 230 engine shed, and you can also buy them separately as seen here in Alex 228. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a matte ground coat on, a matte black ground coat, and then we're going to fluff a couple of coats of grey over the top of that. So the first thing we need to do is mask it up using a low-tack masking tape, and with minimal amount of pressure we've got to carefully mask out the wrap. Right, so now we're all masked up, we're ready for our first coat of matte black. Now, I'm sure this goes without saying, but you should be in a well ventilated room when you're using any aerosol paints, and if you're doing it on a regular basis you really want a decent cartridge mask. This isn't over the top for aerosol paints if you're doing it on a regular basis, so I just thought I'd put that to you. Also some gloves if you don't want to get it on your hands. So we're going to give it a full coat of the matte black. Gloss black would actually be fine as well, because this is just our ground coat. So this is all we're looking for really. It hasn't got to go on sopping wet. Just mist it on until you've got a full covering. Now with a hairdryer or a heat gun, that's going to take about a minute to dry. So I'll dry that and then I'll be back. There you go, as you can see now that is matte black. So now we know it's dry. So next thing we're going to use is a grey primer. I'm using this Kent Ultra Fill Grey, which is really expensive stuff and unnecessary really for this sort of job. You could use something a lot cheaper like High Coat or anything from your local model shops. This is car stuff that I've just got at home and I'm just using it for the purpose of this video. So we don't want to give this a full coat of grey, we want to just mist it on so you've still got some of the black coming through. So we're just going to float it on. And that is almost what we want. So it's quite speckled, which is starting to give it an effect already. So I'll just do the other side. So keeping quite a distance, about 10 inches. And just floating it on. And that's all we need. Perhaps a bit on the edges. And that's all the paint spraying over and done with. The next method now is going to be some dry brushing just to pick up some of the detail. This is where you need to be careful removing your tape so you don't damage your wrap. So don't pull at it really quickly, just gently ease it away. So we've got our basis there now. Doesn't look too bad really as it is. But to highlight some of the detail a bit more, these are the colours I tend to usually go with. Doesn't have to be exactly 103 and 34, but the off-white and the white tend to work well. So what we're going to dry brush first with the off-white, and then we're going to use the white as well after that, and then perhaps we'll finish off with a little bit of Scenics just to enhance that look a little bit more. So for the dry brushing method, if you've never heard of it or you've never done it before, it is what it says in the title. So you're putting paint on a brush as you would normal for any modelling, and then you're dabbing most of it off onto a cloth until you're left with barely anything left on the brush, perhaps 10 or even 5% of the paint left. And this is how that you want it. So before you start on the model, you can always try on the back of your glove or on a spare piece, and that is what we're looking for. So you just lightly starting to put streaks in it. You see there's barely any transfer, and that is what you want. It's just a case of going up and down, and you'll see it's gradually starting to pick up some detail. If you worry that you've put too much on, you can easily just wipe it with your finger and it'll just tone it down a little bit. So as easy as that, that's the first stage of dry brushing. So we'll repeat that on the back or the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put too much on here and then show you how easy it is to wipe it off. So just with your thumb or your finger in a smearing downwards direction, it just tones it back down. I'm going to repeat the process now using a white. Again, I've dipped it in the tin. I'm wiping the worst of it off. See, there's still a lot on there yet, so that needs a lot more taking off yet. That's more like it. And again, in a downward direction, starting to add some of the white, and any bigger bits that I'm not too keen on, just wipe away with my thumb. There we go. How much better does that look than just plain grey? And then just to finish off, you could add some scenery or some static grass, depending on how creative you want to be. I'm going to add some woodland scenic burnt grass T44. I'm going to add a little bit of this. You can use any glue really for this. I've got this superphatic glue, which is pretty good. So I'm just going to dab a bit on my fingertip, and I'm just going to put some dots of glue in different places. And smear it around. Not an even coat. And then before the glue's gone off, just simply sprinkle some scenery over the top, and it should bite to where the glue was. And then depending on how worn out you want your roof, you can add more glue, leave it like that, or if you want a little bit less, you can just use a brush, just brush some of it away. Now if you've got a layering spray at hand, or a sealer, or a matte lacquer, or anything like that, probably would recommend putting a dry coat of matte lacquer over the top, just to get some longevity out of your scenics, because in time that, you know, that might end up falling off left like that, or you won't be able to hoover it or anything. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to class that as done. So I've also used the same technique as I did on the tiles. I've used on the wrap just to add some scenics, depending on the level of condition that you want your barn in, how derelict you want it, how good you want it. There's options to get some more details in places, add rust on the doors, weather the doors up, or have it as a new barn that's currently still in service, shall we say, on a farmyard, for example. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it's gave you some tips. Hopefully you can improve on what I've done, and we'll speak to you soon again. Thanks for all of us at Scale Model Scenery.